Welcome to the HBCU podcast. You're listening to episode 42. If you're an avid listener or just joining us for the first time, here we're joined by some awesome HBCU grads in the form of co-host and guest. We also focus on all the great things HBCU alumni are doing all over the world. On this episode, we speak with Samantha Booker, a 2013 graduate of Paine College. Samantha is an educator, an author, and a speaker. Her passion for education can be witnessed daily in her work as a gifted teacher and through her inspiring lessons on leadership with youth and young adults. During this episode, we discuss her HBCU experience, her children's book, and her role as Teacher of the Year for Richmond County, Georgia. Keep listening. It's the HBCU podcast.
My name is Samantha Booker, and I'm a 2013 proud graduate of Paine College.
All right. So welcome to the HBCU podcast.
So glad to be here.
And we have been talking about having you on the podcast for a minute now.
Almost a year.
Yep, it's been a minute. But, full disclosure, because I like to keep it real with the podcast listeners. Everybody, this is my sister.
Yes.
But, so we will probably be talking to each other with a little bit of familiarity, but that's because we are family. However, that does not take away from the very impressive human being she is. Okay. So, as she mentioned, she is a proud graduate of Paine College. We're talking today to Miss Samantha Booker, who is also the Richmond County Board of Education's Teacher of the Year.
Yes.
She's also an author of a children's book called I'm a Leader.
That's right.
And, so much more we will find out about her throughout this conversation. So, again, welcome to the HBCU podcast.
Yes, glad to be here.
So, first thing I am going to ask you, because, of course, we know each other, but everybody doesn't know you. Tell everybody where you're from, where you grew up, what is the story that led to who Samantha Booker is today?
Okay, so I am from Greer, South Carolina. Born and raised, went to Greenville Technical College for 4 years, majored in early childhood education and business. Thought the dream was to open up a child care center, be a business owner, but the dream shifted. And sometimes when the dream shifts, you just have to go with it. So I moved to Augusta, Georgia, shortly after graduating from Greenville Tech, maybe a year after. Started at Paine College, and things just began to bloom for me. So when I started at Paine College, I had a lot of good mentors, friends, people who believed in me, and I'm here today because of that.
Nice. And just a little bit about your journey. I mean, you sound like when you started at Greenville Tech, you started at Paine, you already went into it just knowing you wanted to be a teacher, but how early did you know that was like the career profession that you wanted to do?
Wow. I can honestly say from childhood, I always knew this was something I wanted to do, work with children in some capacity, somehow. I started out with, what normal kids do, the Barbie dolls and the baby dolls and the stuffed animals,
I remember this.
And then a little sister came along and I started teaching her through play, just playing with school with her. Mm-hmm. And then she began to learn. And so I was teaching at a young age.
Yeah, playing with the stuffed animals, Barbies at first, and then she had a real live human to practice on.
That's right.
And I think she remembers that too. We'll have to chit chat with her on the podcast as well. So, what exactly led you to Paine College? Because you already said you had a little bit of college experience, about 4 years, and what made you decide, well, Paine is the place that I actually just want to be?
Okay, so finishing Greenville Tech and really not knowing the direction I wanted to go in anymore, feeling still like there was a void working with kids. My sister, Tasha, was currently living in Augusta, Georgia. She was working for Paine College, and she kind of just said, come on down here and start at Paine. I didn't really have anything to lose at that point, so I just picked up what I had, came down here, went to Paine, and honestly, it was one of the best decisions of my life.
Yeah. How much did you know though? Because I know you always do your research when it comes to anything, and I did work there, but
So the only thing that I looked into was the education department. I knew it was a very, very awesome education department. You reassured me that it was. I felt safe knowing that someone that I was close to was there and really took pride in the education department and Paine College as a whole. And so I said, well, I'm going to try this out. At first, it was a little disappointing because all of the 4 years I did with an associate's degree didn't transfer in. You know, the courses were not
transferable.
Right. And so that was a little discouraging because I was like, oh, I already did 4 years, you know, getting an associate's, and I really don't want to do 4 more years, but I did it. I felt like it was worth it. You know what I'm saying? Like I knew when I started, even though it was 4 years, that it would fly by and it would be something toward what I really wanted to do, which was teach.
Yeah. I think what you just said is very important to kind of like point out to people with, if you do technical school background and you just really need to know your path, because sometimes what they tell you, hey, go to tech, take a few classes here, you'll be able to use those into a 4-year degree. How much of that was actually true?
None. So really, I had to come and I really had to take the English, the math courses, everything I had to take over again. So that's what kept me for additional years. You know, I was anticipating just taking, instead of the core classes, just taking the early childhood classes to be able to actually teach. And I mean, I was starting from the beginning.
Do your research, everybody, when it comes to, if you're going to go to a 2-year and then transfer. It's definitely information you need to be privy to before you head into a 4-year education.
Right.
Okay, so how much did you really realize that Paine had the HBCU background, and how much was that present during your matriculation there? Like, did you see a lot of things that really showed the African American experience when it comes to college?
Absolutely. So I did not know a lot about the HBCU background when I started at Paine. I was 21 years old, 22 years old. So I was a little older than the average student who was starting their freshman year in college. Most of them were 18. But one of the things that I really enjoyed about just being there and witnessing this as a HBCU is the Black culture. All of the students who were very knowledgeable, who were pursuing dreams, who were driven, all of this at this HBCU at Paine College was one of the things that I enjoyed. You're in classes with people who you can relate to, who understand your struggle, who come from diverse backgrounds, you know, different types of demographics, you know, all over. We had students from California, students from Louisiana, Atlanta, you know, just different backgrounds. And it was nice to be able to see the world through their eyes and where they came from, and just be in classes with them and participate in a lot of things that they did. I honestly wish that I was more involved at Paine. Looking back, you know, my goal when I got there was to knock these 4 years out because I was an older student, and let's get my career started. But when I really look back on it, I wish that I would have spent more time on the yard. I wish that I would have did more tailgating and homecoming and basketball games and that sort of thing, and really participated. So that's one of the things that I would really encourage all new college students to do, is get familiar with the school, go in, participate, become very active in that environment.
Yeah. I'm glad you pointed that out. I think, and I'm so glad to speak to you, because most of the people we have on the show, they've, you know, gone straight through. They started out 18, came from high school and started the school. And it's always good to hear the perspective of someone who, you know, came in just a little bit older. And when we say a little bit older, I just mean she was already in her 20s, you know, and most of the students there were 18, 19.
Right. They were living on campus. They were living in the dorms. They built those relationships. And me, I was living off campus, driving on campus. You know, it was different.
Working.
Right. I was working a full-time job.
Yeah. Well, it's good that you still were able to, you know, realize that was something you missed out on a little bit, but still engage yourself in a way that you kind of got bits and pieces of the HBCU experience.
Right.
Now, we were talking about teaching earlier on and how you chose your profession, and what a lot of people don't know about Paine College is in Richmond County school system, they are responsible for a very large amount of the teachers there.
That's right.
Paine College, like most HBCUs, they have you ready to go when you leave. You take all of the exams, everything you need to actually be prepared to go into the workforce. And so how, with that being said, while you were at Paine College, knowing that you were pursuing a career in teaching, how do you think Paine, prepared you and really impacted your success thus far?
So I'll honestly say Paine College overly prepared me. You know, most people who are in the teaching profession who've gone to Paine know that before you leave Paine College, you have to pass the GACE. And so with that in mind, passing the GACE and them setting you up for that success in that way, you're able to go right into the classroom. You don't have that hanging over your head. You know, you don't have, you have to pass the test, but you're still teaching, and you have a provisional because you're waiting to pass the test. You're already ready. And so that was one of the great things about it. The classroom sizes were small in the education department, so we were like a family. We supported each other. We had fantastic professors who really did want to see us thrive in this profession. And so they put us out into the community, into schools that we were needed in to do our student teaching. And you really develop relationships within those schools. And some of us are working in those schools this very day that we did our student teaching in.
So relationships are very important.
Absolutely.
So it's really cool to hear that they were so instrumental in making sure that everybody out of education landed theirself in a really great school.
Right.
Nice. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit more about you being a teacher, because you're a different type of teacher. I think in your career, you started out just teaching elementary school, and now you're a gifted teacher, correct?
That's right.
So talk a little bit about what that is and what's the gifted designation and the difference between, those things.
So starting out, I was teaching third grade. I was a long-term sub. That's how I got my foot in the door. So after I graduated from Paine, I had the opportunity to go into a elementary school in the third grade classroom, and I taught there as a long-term sub with my degree, but they weren't hiring at that time because it was January when I began.
Okay.
So from January to May, I had the opportunity to work in a third grade classroom at Jenkins White Elementary.
Shout out to Jenkins White.
Absolutely. Where I first started, which is very instrumental in my life. I keep them in the forefront of my mind because those students are the students who really molded me into the teacher I am today. And so moving from Jenkins White, third grade, long term, I was hired on to teach third grade the next year.
Okay.
Then I looped with my students to fourth grade. And what that means is I took my entire class from third grade and I just moved with them to fourth grade. And that was awesome because, they made a lot of progress, and I was able to go with them to the next grade to continue that progress. After that, I decided that I wanted to take a different route. And so I began interviewing for a gifted position as a gifted teacher. And so what I do now currently at Deer Chase Elementary, Hepzibah, Georgia, is I teach first, second, third, fourth, and fifth grade students gifted. And what I do is I go into the classroom and I pull the students one grade level at a time, one day a week, for about 5 hours, and we do project-based learning. So we learn things, we build things. We are just a creative, hands-on teaching approach versus the classroom is a more, sometimes you'll see them with paper, pencil in the classroom, testing. They're preparing them for the Georgia Milestone, and I'm just there reinforcing and making learning fun and innovative.
So what does it mean to be a gifted student? What exactly, how is that determined?
So in Richmond County, gifted is determined by a test that we give them. But you could be gifted in math, and you could be gifted in reading. You could be gifted creatively. So we basically just go in and we test the students, and 3 out of the 4 areas they pass, then they're gifted. They're considered gifted. The population is growing in Richmond County. we are really just trying to hone in on the students that sometimes get forgotten. You know, a lot of people don't know that students with disabilities can still be gifted. Autistic, Asperger's, they can still have a title as gifted. And so instead of just thinking that gifted means they're smart, every student is smart in everything. That's not what gifted means. And so we're really just trying to open eyes and really force people to really look at the student.
Yeah, for the longest, I was like, oh, this is just the students who are like miles ahead of everyone else, and they just maybe have like high IQs, and that's
right.
That's
the misconception that most people have. But as you grow in the profession and as you grow in just the teaching profession in itself, you realize that it's not. It's students, you know, you may struggle in reading, but you're like a math whiz.
Yeah. One of the things, too, that I've been seeing about, I guess, just teaching lately, and you probably have too, I think it's all over the country. We've seen viral videos of creative ways for people to learn. I know there was a guy who I interviewed on the podcast who's from Claflin, and he had a handshake for all of his students, and people have just been getting creative with, you know, music and songs. And what would you say is one of the waves that you're seeing in education now, not just in your particular school district, but just in general when it comes to learning? Because we grew up in an era where they, you know, just kind of did it by the book, and now people are more creative with technology and all of that. So what is the wave? What's the trend in education right now?
I would honestly say if you can reach them, you can teach them. And so teachers are having to get really inventive. We're trying to go to the music that they like and make songs with that deal with education based on the music. We are just really having to figure out this whole what this generation likes, because, you know, we're doing the Facebook accounts and having them submit assignments through that portal, because we know social media is big for the students.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we have I think a lot of teachers are faced with that challenge of what is exciting the children and how can I push the curriculum through that in order for them to learn.
Yeah, because lecture style is just not even for college students most of the time. No. Okay, so what was the dream? Like, are you currently living the dream? And, you know, what was the goal? What did you see post-graduation from, you know, leaving Paine?
So I don't think I'm currently living the dream yet. I can see it still. I can see the dream, and I'm pressing toward it. I'm still currently in classes at Augusta University, finishing up my leadership so that I can go into administration. And my biggest goal in education is I really want to encourage teachers, upcoming, aspiring teachers, current teachers, even veteran teachers, because sometimes we get stuck in how it's worked for us for years. I want to show them that there is support in the leadership arena. There's support for the teachers and how it looks, you know, because if you really think about it, I always think about it in the big the Ron Clark Academies and all of that.
Yeah.
They're really giving these kids the opportunity to be themselves, to highlight what they like to do, and to push the curriculum through that. And that's how learning is taking place. And so I think that I feel like my dream, the biggest one that's come right now, is I need to make sure that in the school that one day will be my school, I'm going to go ahead and speak that the teachers realize that we can make learning fun again. We can really make students want to come to school, want to be in our classroom, to feel excited about learning. And so I'm not currently living the dream. The dream was once just to teach. Now the dream is to teach and inspire students, to teach and inspire other teachers, future teachers, teachers who are aspiring to be teachers, educators, administrators, just change the dynamics. Because
Right.
I think sometimes we get so focused, even me, when I was in the classroom, on teaching for these students to pass this Georgia milestone. But now we need to be teaching for them to understand this concept lifelong.
Right.
Like, how is this going to be relatable in the future for me?
Yeah.
So my goal now that I'm in the classroom, I'm where I want to be, is to now be an administrator and to support teachers, to really support teachers.
Taking it up a level.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so again, so exciting what you're doing and the goal and the vision that you have for it all. But let's talk a little bit about this huge major moment that is just, I mean, the dream of, I feel like any teacher, at least one of the dreams, being Teacher of the Year.
Yes.
So recently you were named the 2018-19?
1920.
1920, okay, Teacher of the Year for Richmond County. So congratulations, huge accomplishment. Let's talk about how this came about, what that process looked like, because there's probably someone listening to you, maybe a Paine, who's like, that is one of my goals in life. So how did all that come about? What did that process look like?
So, first of all, I'm honored to be the 2019-2020 Teacher of the Year for Richmond County. It is still overwhelming to think about, because out of 2,000 plus students in our, not students, but teachers in our district, we really, to be here and to be standing as the one, the number one for the county, and I don't say that to toot my horn. I really am humbled by that, because I've been teaching for 6 years. Mm-hmm. And so not even I saw this dream, this come to fruition like this, on this level. And so I'm still ecstatic, but I'm still really humbled by it. And so within the school system, within your particular elementary school, the staff, the faculty, teachers, certified teachers vote for you. And so you get your name on the ballot, and mm-hmm. people in your school vote. And so they count the ballots, and I became the Teacher of the Year for Deer Chase Elementary School.
Okay.
And so from there, you get an application, and you have to write several essays. There's like maybe 6 or 8 questions that you have to write in essay form, meeting a certain criteria for the district, and you turn it in, you answer, they ask you your philosophy of education, and they ask you, different educational trends that you may see throughout the district or the state. And you turn all that in, and it's judged by 6 judges, veteran teachers, veteran principals, educators, and they select anonymously. Your name's not on anything. They read it, and they select the top 5 anonymously.
Okay.
I got to top 5, and when I got to top 5, I was like, oh my goodness, this is incredible. And so I was happy with top 5, but I was like, okay, so there's an opportunity to be the Teacher of the Year for 2019-2020. Great. So you have to teach a lesson. So all 6 judges that judged your paper have to come to your classroom, and you teach a lesson to your students, and they're watching you, and they are critiquing you on a rubric, and they score you. They send the scores to Human Resource, who calculates your scores, and they pick the number 1, the top score. Mm-hmm. And so I just happen to be the top score, and I can honestly say some stiff competition. There was high school teachers who had been teaching for a lot long. All of them had been teaching for a lot longer than me. Mm-hmm. Various levels, various different grade levels, various subjects. And so it was just an honor to be able to have someone say, wow, she taught that, and we felt like it was good enough to give it a high score. Yeah. And to be selected as the Teacher of the Year.
Nice. So that was quite the process, because I remember you going through it, but the other thing I remember too, you were just like excited about it the whole time. It wasn't like, this is work to do. It was just like, oh, I just want to create the best presentation to write the best essay that I can, right, to really showcase how much it is, how much I really love this profession. And I think that's what really stood out for what you sent to them. I didn't read everybody else's, please don't get it twisted, but right. I know how much you really love doing it, and it probably really showed up in everything that you did for them. So congratulations on that again. Now, let me ask you something, because I'm always like wondering too, and we haven't had this conversation, everybody, so just FYI, because I legit don't know. But what exactly are the expectations of you as Teacher of the Year? Because I was like, oh, do you get to like go places? Do you do speeches? I'll
be honest, they did not give me any type of job description or expectations. They
just
call on me,
you.
Right. They call on me here and there to welcome the new teachers, or to speak to new teachers, to do a professional learning for teachers, things that I was doing prior to being teacher of the year, but I think because of that platform, I've been called a little bit more frequently, but I don't really honestly have a role in it. You know, I guess you're just the face of the county that people can honestly refer to. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback with it, though, from schools. You know, people have asked me in various schools to do things outside, you know, even with the district not particularly asking me often, you know. Different teachers and different principals have asked me to do things, and I'm more than happy to, you know. So I haven't really been active with it. I hate to insert my book, but I think the book has really put me on a platform. It came all at the same time to be able to be the teacher of the year and to travel and speak with people about leadership through my book.
Nice.
Hi, I'm Samantha Booker, author of I'm a Leader. Head on over to www.leadersstandup.org and purchase I'm a Leader for your young leaders. Meet Bexley, a little girl faced with many challenges at school. Come read along as Bexley faces the most popular kid in school and leaves an impact with her peers as she chooses to be a leader. Book I'm a Leader for your next youth event by emailing us at info@leadersstandup.org. Join me while we impact the masses.
Okay. And so teacher of the year also, if you're out here educating kids and you've just been doing such a great job and you're the best person in the county, it has to come with some perks, right?
Oh, yeah.
So what were some of the perks that came, or some of the prizes or whatever?
I got some really awesome prizes. So this year, instead of the car that they normally give away, I got $5,000 cash. I got a all inclusive trip to the Dominican Republic for a week. I went with my family. I got a diamond necklace, 2 watches from Windsor Jeweler. I got a Teacher of the Year ring. I got money from the Peachtree Credit Union, I believe, a crystal peach, various plaques and certificates, flat screen TV, a laptop.
Nice.
I got some really good gifts.
Yeah.
I'm really, really, really pleased.
Perks.
With everything. Yes.
Perks. Nice. Okay, so this is a great segue because, again, Teacher of the Year, you're doing really great things. You're out here being a leader, and that just helps us segue into you being an author. So you're the author of a children's book called I'm a Leader, and it, as you mentioned, came around the same time you released it when you got the news that you were chosen or in the running for Teacher of the Year. So this book is all about leadership, but give us the premise of the book and how you decided to write it.
So the book has always been in my back pocket, and I really saw more than anything recently, as last year when I was really debating on the last 2 years when I was really debating on if I wanted to go ahead and publish this book, is in the school system. You really see a lot of things from the pre-K student all the way up to the 5th grade student who are dealing with things. I mean, they're really having to make decisions at young ages on being a leader, if they're going to follow negative things and negative behavior, or if they're going to be a leader and choose to make the right choice. And then I have a daughter who was also in school, and she would come home at a young age. This was 3K at the time, 3K, 4K. And she had questions about this person saying this to her, or this person, possibly the choice that they made. And so we had to have conversations about it. And I realized we need to start talking about this to our kids. So what better way to create dialogue with your child than to read a book at night and discuss, what choices that you make. And really the objective of this book is for parents to understand that we can tell them all day long, don't be a follower, be a leader. But we don't tell them what the consequences, what comes with that.
Right.
How are you supposed to feel when one of your friends say, I don't want to be your friend because you chose not to do this?
And how to deal with that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I think that it's time for us to just have this conversation in the community, in the school system, in the home.
Yeah. There's tons of self-help books out there and different stuff like that for adults and, help us navigate through. But I thought it was really interesting that your book is almost like a self-help book for children because they need guidance too. Especially if it's something that you're not always being told by a parent and or a teacher. So now you get to read it somewhere.
Exactly.
Nice. So as a teacher, you've had the opportunity to see students and their personalities grow in the classroom, and how they grow as a leader. How much of that was kind of also weaved into your book?
Quite a bit of it. So when you read the book, you'll realize that the setting is in a school system. Mm-hmm. It's in a school. It's in back and forth between home and school, but primarily in school. And a child is having to spend
a lot of time there.
Right. They do. Most of their day is spent at school.
Yeah.
And they have to make a decision in school on if taking the test questions that another student took from the teacher's desk is what they want to do in order to get the grade, the A that everyone else is going to get. So they're cheating, And so through the book, she's thinking in her mind about the conversations her mom has, and knowing that consequences are either good or bad. You're going to have both. You're either going to have a good consequence or a bad consequence, but you're going to have a consequence. Mm-hmm. And so it is giving children the opportunity to really think through, how is she feeling? What is she feeling? What is she remembering what her mom said? Is she courageous enough to stand alone when it comes to making a choice?
What are some tips that you can give parents? Because we've given you full disclosure at the top of the podcast. We obviously know each other. We're family. And I've been able to see the impact of the book. I've seen tons and tons of people buying it, people giving you feedback. But what are some tips for if you're listening and you haven't gotten the book or you're interested in the book? What are some tips, even outside of purchasing this book, that you can give to parents about developing their children's leadership skill?
We really have to start talking to them and making it open enough for them to express how they truly feel about something. Because a lot of times the reaction of parents is when a student says, oh, such and such asked me to do this, we automatically jump real at anger, at fussing, because we are like, you better not do. Let's hear them out. Because comfort comes in being able to go to your mom and say, this is how I feel, or this is what happened to me. Mm-hmm. Because truly, they're just seeking advice. They might not be asking us. They're just sharing with us, but they're really seeking advice for us to come and tell them, how do I handle this situation? And so it's important, I think, for us to know that we have to just talk to our kids. We have to continuously talk to them.
Like it. So can you think of any of your students that you've had and you've really been able to see them blossom into leaders?
Yes. Every time I see a student who's gone on to middle school, I think my students are currently, I have my first group will be 9th grade, I think. But I honestly, 9th grade. They have blossomed into leaders. I keep in contact with their parents. Some of their parents follow me on social media. Mm-hmm. I get to see them. I invite them to come and volunteer at different events for me, because I think it's important for them to understand giving back, mm-hmm. sharing. They have a story. Not all of my students came with a silver spoon in their mouth.
Right.
And so they've come and they have overcome some different types of adversity. And so it's important for me to keep in contact with them and continuously encourage them along that journey.
So that's nice to see that all come full circle. Nice to see that. So let's talk a little bit more about the book. Where exactly can people find the book? Where can it be purchased? How can they get it in their hands?
So I'm a Leader can be purchased on Amazon. It is online at Barnes & Noble and online at Books A Million. But you can also purchase the book directly from me. I have hard copies available. And if you just go to my social media and inbox me if you're local, I'll be more than happy to meet you with one of the books, signed copy of the book personally to you. If you are not local and you contact me through social media, I will still sign you a copy and ship it to you. I really just, I'm happy to send and mail a book to anybody who wants to purchase one. So, but it is available online at Amazon. I ask that if you have it, you leave me a review on Amazon about the book.
Mm-hmm. Important.
Because the reviews are allowing me to be able to enter into different awards for the book. So the more reviews, the better, because that's where they go to.
Nice. So review it. You guys heard it here. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, and your website soon, right?
Right. So the website is under construction right now. I'm just working out some kinks, but it is leaders with a S, standup.org. Leadersstandup.org.
Awesome. Okay, so another thing, a lot of people, or a lot of things that have been able to come into this space because of the book, is you being a speaker and doing appearances. So if anyone is interested in you doing that, how do they get in contact with you? Same way?
So you can contact me via social media or info@leadersstandup.org. You can email me again at info@leadersstandup.org. And yes, I kind of been pushed into this speaking, motivation speaking to youth, coming to do youth events, all of those things. I've been going to various churches for Vacation Bible School. I have done some literacy nights at different schools. I have done read alouds at the library. I do crafts with them. I do leadership activities with them on really how to work together, because truly, you know, I always say we won Teacher of the Year. And I say we because it took my family at Deer Chase, very close friends, and the administrators, all of us working together to make the dream come true. It wasn't just me. Nice. And so I want to give credit where credit is due.
Okay. That's awesome. So, again, you can contact her directly, social media, also all the other ways. And we'll have all of the information on the HBCUpodcast.com, as well as how to reach Miss Samantha Booker on all of our platforms, too, so that you can get in contact with her. You can get a book. You basically can get blessed on how your kid can become a leader and how you can incorporate some of these leadership skills in your classroom if you're a teacher.
Right. And speaking of teachers, sorry, but
no.
I wanted to make sure I said that this book comes with a lesson plan for teachers.
Nice.
And for guidance counselors. So there is a lesson plan available. The lesson plan for teachers is based on most ELA standards. K through 5 can utilize it in the classroom with standards for ELA and activities to go along with those ELA standards. And guidance counselors can utilize it with activities to go along with teaching character ed.
So that's important. So you're not just getting a book, you're getting like instructions on how to get this lesson across.
Right.
Okay, so now we are just going to kind of talk a little bit about HBCU. Well, before we get into HBCU memories, because I know you may or may not have a lot, but you might. I do want to talk a little bit more about the book and teaching just together, because again, this podcast, we're trying to encourage listeners, one, to have more pride in their HBCU, but also encourage youth to go to an HBCU, and just to encourage people to kind of follow in the footsteps of some of our guests. So if you were to give any kind of encouragement, feedback for individuals who are looking to go into the education profession or speaking or becoming an author, what type of advice would you give to them?
I would honestly say for any of those, do your research. I did not do my research with a lot of things that I should have, but when I look back on it and I began to look into it, I realized that there was easier ways to get things done. Network. There's a lot of people in our environment who know, in our community, who know how to get some things done, who know people who can give you college tours or get you on campus to see things. And so with the author, just research, the avenue that you want your book to go in, if that's
because your book is self-published, correct?
My book is not self-published.
Not self-published,
but I am looking and seeking to go the self-publishing route for the upcoming books.
Okay. For those who are interested in possibly going into the teaching profession, any advice for them?
I would say at the very beginning of starting, link up with a teacher and who can mentor you along the way. Because there is a lot of things that you are going to learn throughout your courses and throughout your residency, but there are things that you will not learn until you step foot in the classroom on the first day. And so with a mentor, they can go ahead and prepare you for those things. Mentorship.
Yes. We always talk about that. And the last thing is just out here speaking. That I feel like you being a good public speaker kind of comes with the territory when it comes to teaching, because you're in front of a bit of an audience all the time. But how has that developed for you since the book came about and the Teacher of the Year appointment?
Well, I'll honestly say public speaking was not the avenue that I chose. And I always say God chose that for me, because I remember sitting in the classroom and my friend was helping me do my contracts. And short story, she told me to add speaking to my contract. And I said, no, I'm not a speaker. You know, I go and I do activities and events with kids, but I don't speak to adults. You know, I work with children. And she was like, you're a speaker. And I was like, I'm not a speaker, Javon. And so, funny story is, with the same day, that evening, I got an email and a text about speaking, about leadership, speaking to some of the kids and to the adults at a church. And I was thinking to myself, really? You know, if you want to make God laugh, tell him what you're not going to do. And so I ended up being a speaker. I mean, I did a great job at it, I think, but it was one of those things that I wasn't anticipating. You know, I didn't realize that I would be speaking to adults as well, you know, on how to get their children and talking about leadership, how to get their children prepared as leaders.
Gotcha. This is the part of the podcast where we're just going to hop into a little bit of HBCU memories, because, again, it's the HBCU podcast. We're encouraging people to go to historically Black colleges and universities and really thrive. So for you, it doesn't necessarily have to be anything serious. It can be serious. It can be outside the classroom, whatever. But what is your favorite HBCU memory?
So favorite HBCU memory would be sitting in Candler Memorial Library, which is where we took our classes at, and being with about 8 other education majors. And we developed a lot of relationships in that room, because we moved throughout every course together. So we had relationships with our professors, and we had relationships with with one another that are lifelong relationships that we continuously have to this day. And I honestly say that is one of the best memories for me, because I always say you meet friends in high school, you meet them in elementary school, but you really meet friends in college.
While you were at Paine, did you participate in any extracurricular activities, or were you just all about the books?
No, I wasn't all about the books. You know, I did work a full-time job, but I was toward the end when the light came on, and I was like, I really would like to be more involved. I did the student government. So you started to get involved a little bit. Toward the end. I always like to talk about giving on the HBCU podcast. As you know, with historically Black colleges and universities, we're always, you know, give back. And it's important for not just people who are graduates, but also our community to give back. And I think for Paine College, that's one of the pluses. The community really tries to rally around the college when in need. But when it comes to giving back to your alma mater, what does that look like for you? Because it can always be monetary. It could be showing up and speaking and providing your time and talent. So what does that look like for you? So in giving back, yes, it is important to give back as an alumni of Paine College monetarily, you know, because we've seen recently that Paine really does need the alumni support. But I have given back to Paine recently with speaking. I was able to speak during their honors convocation. Nice. Which was really a highlight for me because it was going back to remembering being in the same place those students were. Yeah. Having chapel every Wednesday and having someone come in and really pour into me and left me with something that I could take back and keep going through, you know, school, through college and receiving that degree. And so to be there and to be speaking to them about Pathway to Success and to just stay the course was really important to me.
That is awesome. Okay, so last thing to wrap, if you could encourage a student to choose an HBCU, because, I mean, even your daughter, what would you say to them?
So if I had to encourage a student to choose an HBCU, that would be my first choice in telling them to go to college, because you are surrounded by individuals, and I don't want this to sound bad, but you are surrounded around individuals who look like you. who are going after dreams like you. And it's just a relatable experience. It's a different experience, than what you're going to get at a school that's not a HBCU.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get, to me, smaller class sizes, personal relationships with your professors. It's a different takeaway than most. It's a different bonding experience. You're going to get the sororities and the fraternities and the step shows and all the Greek, all of that is going to come with the HBCU. But most importantly, I think you're going to get the best education.
Awesome. That is pretty much it. If there's anything that I didn't ask you or anything else that you would like to share with the podcast community, please feel free.
No, I just want to leave with, please follow me. Please follow me on social media outlets. There's a lot of things that are going to come down the tailpipe with I'm a Leader. In general, with the book, if anybody needs anything as an upcoming educator or as a current educator, my door is wide open. I just want to be a vessel to be able to help and serve in any way I can with students, families, and teachers.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. This has been a long time coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. And what I would like to say is, of course, she just shared all the places where you can find information, how you can get in contact with her. But if you missed anything, don't worry. You'll be able to find all of the links on our website, the HBCU Podcast. And you can also follow us and find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at the HBCU Podcast. So, Samantha Booker, thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the HBCU Podcast. We have so much more HBCU content on the way, so make sure you subscribe to the podcast, rate the podcast, and visit us at thehbcupodcast.com. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at the HBCU Podcast. Like us on Facebook. We love you for listening. Until next time.